Hello, everyone. Welcome to the start of a new series on the misconceptions of the Zodiac Signs. And the reason why I chose to talk about this and why I think it's so important for us to be in these conversations is because these days, astrology is more and more accessible than ever, which is amazing. It's such a gift. But with that accessibility, we also see astrology being oversimplified, leading to a lot of stereotypes, leading to, in many ways, putting people and the signs into boxes and those misconceptions, those stereotypes getting repeated over and over again. For example, if we're talking about Aries, you might have heard things like, oh, if you're an Aries, it must mean that you're really angry or that you're really selfish or you're very aggressive. So these kinds of labels can be so limiting and damaging. Really, again, boxing people into these roles, into these boxes, when in reality, we're truly missing the depth and the richness of each sign's energy. So in this series, I hope to bring a little more clarity, a little more nuance, and a lot more soul to the way we understand the zodiac. So let's start with the great initiator, which is Aries. Aries ruled by the planet Mars. We all have Aries somewhere in our charts, so we all have Mars somewhere in our charts. And maybe you have the sun in Aries, maybe you have the moon in Aries, maybe you have a cluster of planets in Aries. And Aries is the flame of existence, is the flame of initiation, it's the ignition, and it's the spark of life. It's that energy of passion and vitality and courage and action. So think of that moment when you felt so passionate and excited about something, about starting something new, a new adventure, a new project. That's Aries. That is the expression of Aries in your life and the expression of Mars in your life. So it's the archetype that initiates anything and dares to begin. Has a tremendous courage to start new cycles, start new chapters. So, but with that, of course, can come a few misunderstandings. And the first one is that Aries people are always angry. They're always aggressive. The truth is that again, Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is all about drive, desire, momentum. There's so much vitality. There's so much fire, and there's a level of urgency in that energy. So they thrive. Aries thrives on movement, on action, on initiation, whether it is, for example, launching a new project or you're starting something new, you're going on a new adventure, you're starting a new relationship, breaking new ground. So what's happening is that it's about feeling things very quickly and expressing things very directly, which sometimes can even come across as very intensity and even rude. They're bold. They need to say, they need to express things. It's very authentic, but that does not mean they're angry. More often what's really happening is that they're very impatient, especially when they feel a certain level of, feeling blocked from taking action. So maybe they're forced to wait when maybe they have to wait for someone else to approve something or to make decisions. So that frustration often arises when they can't move as fast as they want to move, but that fiery energy needs somewhere to go, so when it's channeled into something creative, into something, in purposeful action, Aries is a force to be reckoned with. It's that bold leadership, inspiration, moving forward, making things happen. So if they're not able to do that, that's where the anger can come up. That's when the frustration can come up. So yes, there is a level of feeling things more, quickly, but they also move on more quickly as well. They don't usually hold grudges. They're not usually trying to manipulate through resentment. It's like that fire flames and then it fades. And many times that anger is just that passion in disguise. They burn through emotion and then they keep moving. And this is why it's so important if that's, if you have many planets in Aries, or if you have a sun in Aries, moon in Aries, wherever that Aries is in your chart and your Mars, it's important to channel that energy. When things come through and you notice, okay, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm upset, how do you what outlets do you have to help this energy to move through? Scream therapy is amazing. Punching, a punching bag or boxing or, martial arts are amazing for Aries. So when there is that way to channel that energy in positive, healthy ways, it's really amazing and it can be so helpful. But ultimately, Aries is that raw life force that's brave and direct and passionate and expressive, but not necessarily aggressive or angry. Like that is the lower expression of this energy. Now, misconception number two. Aries never finish what they start. Hmm. Well, Aries is indeed the sign of new beginnings. They shine, they thrive when they initiate something new. And there's so much excitement. There's so much excitement in that, starting a new thing, a new relationship, a new project, a new job. Like it's that spark of creation. It's that think about your soul from a soul level. You're exploring a new territory. You're trying something new. You're exploring life in ways that you haven't before. But that does not mean they lack follow through. Because when Aries is truly committed to something, when something really lights them up, there's this tremendous authenticity when they're doing what they want to be doing, what they need to be doing, what they feel that deep connection with. They are unstoppable. Aries energy is total. When they say yes, they're all in. And what's happening is that Aries will often identify deeply with whatever they are engaging with. So if it's a project, if it's a relationship, if it's a goal, Aries, they need goals. So they need a target, they need a goal, they need to be moving towards something. So they see whatever that is as an extension of themselves. So in those moments, their commitment, their devotion, their courage, their stamina shines through and it fuels them up. And those are the people who will refuse to quit, you know? So to say that they never finish what they start, that is not true. Misconception number three, Aries people are selfish and self-centered. Again, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, right? Which is all about me, my identity, who I am, who I want to become. It's all about selfhood. But this doesn't translate into selfishness. The thing about Aries is that they need to do what ignites them, what drives them, what ignites that inner spark, inner fire within. That's part of the essence. That's part of what I am here to do, to be, to have. It's such an authentic energy. It's such an authentic sign. There's no pretenses. There's no pleasing for the sake of pleasing. It's about, deep within, it's about truly honoring who we are. My individuality, your individuality, who you are really, truly, without the conditionings and the pressures and the being polite or being proper, what needs to be done. Like it's about, if you take all of that off, who are you truly? So Aries is all about honoring that part of ourselves and our needs and our wants. So It's the part in our consciousness where we are our own heroines, right? And how we need to follow the beat of our own drums. So it's about honoring that individuality and honoring our dreams and goals and happiness and all of that. So that's part of the Aries school, and that's part of what, again, if you have a lot of Aries in your chart, you're learning, you're in that journey of really asserting yourself and asserting who you are and being truly who you are without the guilt. But that does not mean that Aries doesn't care about others, that they're not sensitive to others, because in fact, their boldness and courage, it's often, there's such a fierce dedication to, in many times protecting and standing up for those that they love, for the causes they're committed to. They're the natural activists in the zodiac. They're not just talking about justice or about what's right or about, making the environment better and making a change. Like they do it. They make noise. They join the protests. They go to the streets. They take action. And they will fight passionately, not just for themselves and their causes, for also for other people, for their communities, whatever they believe in. Remember, whatever they identify with, they're all in. So there's going to be a lot of generosity, protecting, they are the warriors. They will protect other people, and they can have so much empathy and really show that, not just by talking about it, but by really showing up, fighting by your side, fighting for other people. They show love through actions. And one more, misconception number 4. Aries acts without thinking. Hmm. There is a tendency for Aries to act very fast. That's very true, undeniable. But it doesn't necessarily mean they are thoughtless. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's always impulsive. It can be, but a lot of their decisions are often coming from a deep gut instinct, a deep inner knowing, a deep connection to that authentic part of who they are. So they have a strong intuition. It's almost that sense of a gut feeling wisdom that can be such a source of, a guiding force in their lives. So they may not overanalyze every detail, right? They're not going to do that. But there's a level of trusting themselves or learning how to trust themselves that can be a very powerful gift, that can give them answers and direction that goes beyond the logical mind trying to make sure that everything is in place or what is the best decision. There's that connection to their gut that can really give them that, yeah, that gut feeling wisdom. So yes, they can be impulsive. They can act many times before fully thinking things through. And this is where we bring the opposite sign. Every sign has a polarity, which complements, which brings to that sign what they don't have or what they're working on. So in the case of Aries, the polarity is Libra, right? So to help Aries be less impulsive, it's in balance their fast action tendencies. Libra says, don't forget to consider other people's perspectives. Bring some analysis every once in a while. So yes, Aries' ability to act quickly, without getting stuck in mental loops can be very valuable. How many times have we not made a decision in our lives because we're trying to find what the best decision is? And that gut wisdom can be really, really helpful, especially also in emergency situations where, you have to make decisions quickly and think about, these emergency situations where like Aries brings that natural courage to move forward despite the doubts. That can be such a blessing. How many times again, how many times in life we hesitated to leap towards something, our dreams, our goals, our visions, a relationship, a new job, a new chapter, because of that fear, because of the mind coming in and creating these loops and these negative, or even just trying to figure out what's best. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? For Aries, there is that decision-making quality that they say it's going to be that I'm going to go all in and I'm going to move forward despite the doubts. It's really, there's such courage in Aries. That's really amazing. So I just want to bring to you an example of a strong Aries woman, Jane Goodall. She is, if you don't know her, she's a world renowned conservationist. Like she's done groundbreaking research on wild chimpanzees in Tanzania. And she, in many ways, revolutionized our understanding of the behavior, the animal behavior, and she totally dedicated her life to wildlife, to wildlife conservation. She's an activist, she's an advocate for the for the animals, for the chimpanzees. And you see how her son and her Mars are in Aries. You see such a strong signature here. That's Aries, the pioneer. She has a sun in Aries conjunct the ruler, which is Mars, both of them in Aries. So when they're together, those Aries qualities that I've been talking about, the courage, the the unwavering dedication, that pioneering, bold pioneering spirit, um, is expressed, which is very much a testament to her life and how much she's taking initiative. Like she leads fearlessly. She, diving in head first into these new challenges. She went into the jungle. She went for it, and especially from a young age. She was driven by so much curiosity and passion. So when she started her research, she actually went to live among the wild chimpanzees in Africa and Tanzania. And she went into the completely uncharted territory. Like that is a true Aries move. It is that courage, that the capacity to go where no one else dares to go. And you see how you know she dedicated her entire life to this mission. So it's when we talk about Aries being selfish, and here she is trying to um really um you know, really pushing the boundaries for the understanding of how animals behave, how to, uh, it's all about conservation. It was all about that education and activism and on behalf of nature, on behalf of the animals. So again, that Aries energy of fire and commitment to whatever ignites, in this case, what ignited her passion. Um, so her courage, her relentless energy, she spent her whole life doing this and she still does it. So decades of research and activism. So she didn't just start a project, she really made it her whole life's purpose and inspired really generations with her trailblazing work. So I just wanted to share a little bit about her journey because it can really show the power of Aries, the power of Aries pioneering fire in that deep, combined with that deep devotion, how it can really lead to, bold vision and really a lifelong commitment and just, to do something on behalf of a higher cause. So, great example. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was educational and informative. And if you like this video, don't forget to don't forget to like it. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do. And stay tuned. We will look at the misconceptions of the sign of Taurus coming up.